evening, and welcome to Africa's Vision Network. Africa's Vision Network features African cultural awareness, education, economic empowerment, and other issues focusing on the African world. I am Princess Ayo, your host for this program. This evening, we will travel to the West African countries of the Republic of Ghana and the Republic of Benin with the National Association of Black Social Workers. Thank you for being with us this evening. Our guests tonight are Ms. Rosa Lee, past president of the DC chapter of the NABSW, Mr. Chester Marshall, member of the NABSW, and Ms. Nana Gail Atakora, who will complete her BA in social work at Bowie State later next year. She is also an Akan priest traditional healer. They will share with us their travel to Ghana and Benin and some of the highlights of the 1998 International Conference. Thank you all for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
We've already had Rosa on our show before talking about the National Association of Black Social Workers and their trip to South Africa. And so we're really excited to hear that the association went to Ghana this time and the Republic of Benin. And we know you didn't go, so we have Chester who's going to tell us about the trip. But if you could just tell us a little bit about the National Association of Black Social Workers and why they go to Africa.
Okay. The National Association of Black Social Workers is a national group composed of about 4,000 social workers across the United States. Actually, not all are social workers, but black workers in the human service field. About 25 years ago, we recognized the need to improve relations between blacks in the diaspora, and we began to do international trips starting around 1974. Our former president and executive director, Mr. Sina Williams, traveled to South Africa and talked with the social workers there. He supported them in their fight against the apartheid movement, and we made a vow that we would continue to travel to Africa and support social workers of black people in Africa and the Caribbean. And we have made these international trips for the last 25 years, taking large numbers of people from all walks of life.
And what is the main purpose of the association going there?
Well,
what do you think is the main
the main purpose are educational tours. Many blacks in the United States have forgotten their culture and do not understand or recognize a relationship to Africa. So part of our purpose in going was to improve the relationships and for cultural reasons.
And do you think that's happening?
Oh, by all means. I would say within the last 25 years, the interest and development in Africa has really mushroomed. You have churches who are going there, organizations, health organizations, and it's more common people, everyday people are beginning to get a heightened awareness in Africa and really looking at their roots. Families are doing research and actually tracing their families back to certain tribes or regions. So yes, I think we have fulfilled our purpose.
What countries have you been to?
I have traveled many places, most of the Caribbean islands,
Is this
Egypt,
with the association?
Kenya, with the association, right. And it's been a wonderful experience for me, and I've learned so much. The highlight of my going was going to Ghana, my first trip to Ghana in 1993, and I want to go back.
I'm interested in this part. I see here that you want to establish an international association of black social workers?
Yes, well, we have, they have their own association of social workers in those countries, and we have been working with them over the last few years trying to formulate an international association of black social workers.
And so this is the second time you've been to Ghana?
Yes. Actually, it's the third time. The organization went to Ghana in 1980. I did not accompany them on that trip, but each year that we go, we further the talks in developing an international association.
Why do you think you choose Ghana?
The popularity with Ghana, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that the first president of Ghana attended Lincoln University, and when he returned to Ghana and set up his government, there were many blacks who were living and working in Ghana, such as Dr. John Clark, Maya Angelou, Alice Wyndham, who's a social worker from St. Louis. So there were many blacks working there, and there's a strong relationship with Ghana, with American blacks. Some of it, I think, is maybe, I'm not going to say a misunderstanding, but we blacks here in America have always been told that the majority of blacks in America were brought from Ghana. That may or may not be the case, because we know blacks were brought from all parts of Africa, but we do have this affinity with Ghana.
Well, we're excited, Chester, to hear what happened to you. And I know you went with the association, but you also went as a black man who'd been brought up in this country all your life. And so tell us about Ghana first. What was that like for you?
Well, the entire trip, I believe, was the beginning of the rest of my life. From the time we landed in Accra until the time we boarded the planes to come back, I experienced a whole range of feelings. We hooked up with the Association of Social Workers of Ghana and had a welcoming reception in Accra with President Rollins. We moved there and went to Kumasi, which is a cultural capital of Ghana, and toured the Kente villages and saw the wood crafters make their wood works and things like that. We moved on to the Volta region and toured Akasumu Dam, and we did a boat ride on Lake Volta, which is one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. Just everything that I experienced there was so grand and royal. I've always been well-read about Africa, and to see those images that I read about come alive was really, really rewarding for me. The personal highlight of my trip to Ghana was visiting the Cape Coast region and the Elmina slave castles and the Cape Coast slave castles. Really did feel the spirit of the ancestors there, and it really re-emphasized for me that a price has been paid, and that I really need to take that serious. And that was the point of my trip where I realized, hey, this is something serious.
Now,
I'm not only a tourist.
Go to the castles and they talk about how they felt emotional and you know, they cried and they really felt like there were spirits there. And how did it affect you? What did you feel? What was it like when you walked in?
All the above. When I first walked in, I was cognizant of the fact that people had told me, man, I just had an out-of-body experience. I started crying. I really got angry. And I didn't experience that when I first walked in the slave castles. When I went to the lower dungeons is when I really began to experience the anger and the sadness and really feel the presence of the spirits of the ancestors there. And really was touched by that, and it really, that's the personal highlight for me, and it's an indelible impression that I'll never forget.
Would you suggest that other African Americans do this?
We have to. We have to. That's another priority that I brought out of Africa with me, to really talk about this trip, being my first trip, and to really encourage people to learn about what Africa really is and what it is to us.
Would you say not only black people?
I would say everybody. I would say everybody, because Africa is, of course, a major contributor to civilization, and I think we all can benefit from the lessons that Africa teaches us.
Right. Well, that's why we have Nana Atakora with us also, who is married to a man from Ghana. He's in Ghana. She has her children are Ghanaian, and I know you traveled to Ghana quite a bit. And you were there when the National Association of Black Social Workers were there, and you got to meet, you know, some of the members or a member. And, you know, tell us a little bit about why you think this is important for them to go and for you to be there, or for any of us African Americans to be in Ghana.
Well, I thought it was important because a lot of our history and a lot of our true knowledge was let's say, turned around. And because of that, we really didn't know the truth. We went on what was told to us, what we saw. You know, we watched TV. We saw Tarzan. We didn't know who was really king of what jungle. And so we had to take time now and digest that we're really confused. You know, there's so many things. Our children are violent. You know, we want to really have, we want them to have some peace. And we figured culture was one piece for them that was missing, that they did have a deep culture, they did have many concepts of family well intact in African culture. So we really felt that was one piece that we should start to employ, again, families and communities, and rebuild communities and family as a strong nation, as some of the ways of Ghana.
Yes, and I know you went on your last trip, this last trip you went to Ghana?
Yes.
You were on Mr. Bodo's television show?
Yes.
That is the executive producer for this show, and he left it in our hands and went on to do it in Ghana. So how was that? That
was very exciting because a lot of, again, if you look at the slave dungeons, what you'll find in there would be a Catholic church. And they did slave trade through that process. So in Ghana, Christianity is very, very rampant, and they don't know about the traditions of Africa. And so when Puedo asked me, why are you a traditional priest? You know, you've actually picked up the old, you know, studies of culture. And I said to him that it was important for me because I wanted to know who I was. I didn't want to know what I was made to be, but I really wanted to know who I was and what made me love music, what made me want to hear drumming and dancing and singing and really be inspired with spirit and so connected to spirit. And you're going to, I know you're going to Bowie State now. Yes. And you plan to be, I guess you're going to be a future member of the NABSW. Yes. But I know you're working on some things even as a student, and you have some programs that you do yourself. Tell me how you feel the Akan traditional healing works with the National Association of Black Social Workers, or any social work that we do. How does that? Well, again, I knew when I went over, I could count the people who would not be able to. And a lot of people who this would really benefit would never make it there. So I figured that I had to put together, from my eyes, a story that they can absorb and understand the culture, spirituality, and the connectiveness. So I put together a program called Soul Journey, which is now in its 4th year at Children's Trust Initiative in Northeast, right there in Lincoln Heights community, and just teaching and having people understand about the connection of being responsible and being connected, and having that understanding. So important. You have all ages children? Yes, we have all ages. We're going to have a graduation December 12th, actually, and we asked the community to join in. We invited Ebenezer AME Church. We also invited African heritage dancers, and we wanted to be a celebration. We'll be having limousines, and we're going to make this something of highest respect. That people who are scholars, are also people who know about their culture and their history. Exciting. Well, we had a second part of this exciting journey to Benin. And Chester, we want you to tell us a little bit about the trip to Benin. We know that's a different country from Ghana. I think a lot of people think that there are states there, little areas, but actually they're countries. That's right. So it's a whole other world. So tell us about Benin. What was that like? Again, the red carpet was rolled out for us. We were treated with such dignity and respect, just like we were in Ghana. We landed in Cotonou, Benin. We had an official welcome by President Caricou's representatives.
We had a fashion show and dinner that night. Beautiful African attire, beautiful African women displaying their attire. Benin, just like Ghana, was just the images, the concepts in art, the people really had an impression on me. We moved from Cotonou and went to Ouida, which is the birthplace of voodoo, also the home of the port of no return, where the slaves actually were.
So they had slave castles there also.
Well, they had the ports there in Benin. The castles were more in Ghana, but you could still see the places where they were transported out of the continent, and the rituals that were used to make them forget where they were leaving and focus on where they were going to.
And I know you're next to this map, and I don't know if the camera can swing with us, but if you could just reach over there, if you don't mind, and touch Benin. This is actually a map from Benin. There it is in the middle. And if you could just hold your finger there, really a small country comparatively, but it's exciting that we're visiting even those kind of countries. Could you then point to Ghana and they can see the relation of Ghana to Benin? That's fabulous. Yeah, this is a piece of an artwork from Benin, and I know you mentioned voodoo, and I know every American, black and white, is sitting up, ooh, voodoo.
Yes.
You mentioned the word, because isn't it some misconceptions that we possibly have that of what voodoo is? And when you mention words like voodoo, or even, Nana, traditional healing, don't we have some misconceptions? I wanted Nana to address, because I know that's her profession and her expertise, on what that word means and why it has such negative connotations for us.
Well, voodoo, or let's just say the black magic, let's say the black powder, these items was used for protection. And what happened is that during that process, when you want people to go over to the other side, you want to really dismember them, to break down their power. And so you have to recondition the mind and tell them that the voodoo is bad. Therefore, if they won't use the voodoo to work power against you.
Wow.
But as we begin to be more diverse and to understand a lot about different religions, the Chinese, Indians, and having respect for all people, we begin to now to want to understand the depthness behind it. What are the comparisons? What does it make? How does one become spiritual? You know, and also if you're a spiritual person, what is what is your 10 Commandments? Give you an example. And I wanted to find out in Africa, do they have 10 Commandments? You know, do they have laws and regulations? And yes, through voodoo, it is, like as he had mentioned, it is a lot of just ordering, having respect, understanding the regulations of the town. And that's what they would call
the
voodoo.
regulation of the town. And of course we have words like pagan and fetish and idols.
Right. Yeah.
What does that mean to? I mean, what would you say to the audience about those words? Because we probably use them wrongly.
Right. What I find out that home in Africa, I came here and I went to the hospitals, also through nursing, and I saw that the doctor used tools. And he used these tools to do operations. And then I asked people, do you know what those tools are? Every one of those tools that he's using, do you know what they are? Most times they said no. I said, well, why do you think that the African who also used the tools do not understand that those are tools to do healing as the doctor did healing with his tools?
Fabulous.
And so I thought that was very interesting when they say that we understand that these are tools, Nana. This is not, we're not praying to these idols. We are using those idols as a tool because spiritual, we believe that we can heal. And yes, I've watched them do the healing and same healing, you know, in cancer, different problems of mental disorders. Yes, they had their modality of healing. And it's just to sit and understand why or how to compare, and you know what I mean, instead of blaming or accusing one of really just being pagan or, you know, not having our understanding.
And Chester, go on back, because I sort of interrupted you at voodoo. It's a great word.
Really listening and learning. One of the things that I've known about African philosophy and religion, and it really came alive in Ouida, which is the cradle of voodoo, is that African religions allow for other thoughts and other religious beliefs to be incorporated into their worship, and that's what voodoo is all about: bringing different beliefs together, bringing different people together, preserving families, preserving communities. It's not squeeze a dial when somebody makes you mad like we're taught here. It's not the evil, satanic, or whatever images that we associate with it. So the concepts in Africa are very, very, very deep, and it takes a lot of commitment to really learn and understand what it is that we're seeing and thinking about.
Tell us about some more places you visited. You keep saying Ouida. Okay, that was the place where you had a lot of the temples, Temple of the Python.
Temple of the Pythons.
House of Brazil.
The House of Brazil. The Temple of Pythons was interesting. Me being afraid of snakes.
As are most
I was not too thrilled about going there, but one of the things that we're going back to concepts and philosophy, they really believe that what the snake does, the wisdom of the snake, and how the snake moves and hides and conceals, and they believe that that's a type or a concept of wisdom, and that's why the snakes, the pythons, are so important over there, because it represents wisdom, and they play with them and put them around their neck and take pictures with them and everything at the house of or at the Temple of Pythons. And we went to an interesting place, the village on stilts, where you have to go out on boats and travel to the little huts that have been built there. The creativity, everything that I saw there represented some kind of cultural creativity.
And the houses are actually built
on stilts.
You mean sticks?
Sticks, yes.
And where are the sticks grounded?
I presume that they're grounded in the base of the river. Of the river, yes.
So they're in the riverbed.
They're in the riverbed.
And
yes.
hold the house.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
And hold the houses, and people live in the houses.
Yes.
Wow. And did you go inside?
Yes, went inside.
It was like a real house?
Real house. That's right. That's right.
Amazing.
Very creative. Very amazing. Very amazing. Yes.
Wow. And I know Benin is different from Ghana.
Yes.
Well, as a Nigerian, I know one of the things are that Benin was colonized by the French.
Yes.
And Ghana, of course, by the British.
Yes.
What differences did you see in the two countries?
I can speak through my feelings, because my feelings were drawn out more so than they ever have been in my life. I felt in Benin that the French influence was very, very heavy. And it was almost like how I feel here in America and the European influence on us here in America. But one of the things that I felt real good about in both the countries is that the traditions are still preserved in the villages. The city, Contenoy, you have people walking around in European clothes, but when you go to those villages, you hear the wisdom of the traditions, and you see the clothes, and you see the rituals that we all read about, that is representative of traditional Africa there in the villages. So while we see westernization and European influence, particularly in Benin with the French, we also are able to see the tradition still being withheld.
Yeah. And you met the president, you said?
We met the president, Karakou.
You probably wouldn't meet the president of the United States, right?
No. He marched in on us and had did an official presentation and welcome. All over the city, there was just signed, Welcome National Association of Black Social Workers of the Americas. I mean, the people were out looking for us. I mean, it was just, they really wanted us to be there. I felt like I belonged there. That was home. Not really thinking about what we hear about Africa. Well, they don't really want you over there. They don't like you, and all of that stuff,
Right.
and that whole divisiveness. I didn't see that.
So what misconceptions now could you say to people that are here that have always said, I'm fine, I don't ever need to leave my backyard, I can stay right here in America, I don't need to go to no Africa. What kind of misconceptions could you say you can dispel for you?
You can dispel the myth that Africa is a primitive continent, that people live in trees and bushes all over the place, even though you have some of that it's developed just like any other continent. You can dispel the myth that Africans really don't want African Americans in Africa. You can dispel the myth that there is no African contribution to this world. Africans are very deep people with a lot of deep traditions and wisdom. And really, I would just say to brothers and sisters, you have to go. You have to go. It's almost like not a choice.
Right. We have like 2 minutes to finish this exciting show, but if you could just give us like 30 seconds of wisdom, Nana.
I would say that when I took people to the waters, and waters being very spiritual, you always hear the song "Wade in the Water," and I looked out, and I said, you know, when I'm looking out, it's just like being in Africa. So when I took the people back there and did that soul journey, it was so important for them in healing to see that, yes, you are connected. You can look out and you can see your brother and your sister. You know, I think that was something I want everybody to always remember.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all of you coming on today. We've learned so much, as usual. My audience has gotten so much out of it. We're going to, at the end of the show, the audience, you're going to see a little clip of some scenes from Ghana, and these scenes show the Silver Jubilee of the Ashanti King. It celebrates 30 years on the golden stool. So as we close out, the audience is going to see those amazing pictures and hopefully get a little glimpse of what you saw. It can't be like the feeling you had when you went, but a little glimpse, better than Discovery Channel shows us, where there's color, and they often show us in brown and dusty roads, whereas, we know we're a magnificent people.
That's right.
So thank you so much, audience, for being with us, and we hope that you will join us next time on Africa's Vision Network.